fiveanddimeeaston.com. They have their website officially up. You can shop most of their stuff online. They also have Fucked. They have Fucked in the store. I think they're the only one allowed to sell Fucked out of their store. It's 484-544-4719. That's at Five and Dime Easton on social media. These guys are great. I mean, they're killing it. It's the best skate shop, in my opinion, in the area. They have a lot of cool stuff there. Both the owners are rad. I stop in when I can. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 5. There is someone always there to help you out with your needs. You can check their inventory off the website. You can check out some videos they got on there, and they're doing some cool things. Their social media is awesome. They support a lot of local skaters in the area, and they're growing. I'm excited to be a part of them growing. I'm excited to help them out. They're helping me out. It's a good relationship, and I push Five and Dime Easton because they're the best skate shop in the area. Check them out. BTG Blasting. My man, Pat Cunningham, offering you pressure washing, disinfecting, acid washing, and rust removal. It is a high pressure washing business, bringing your stuff back to glory. He does anything from houses all the way to having him come into the studio. He comes down to the studio on a schedule and he disinfects the studio, and we are certifiably clean, and it just covers all the bases. So with the things that are going on now, you're going to need somebody like this. He's got a sticker out front. I am certifiably clean down here. He also offers free estimates on all your needs. He can do corporate and at home. You can reach him at 484-241-1711 and btgblasting@gmail.com. He just started this business and it is taking off. I'm super excited for him, and I'm super excited that he's a sponsor of the show. And you can check out BTG Blasting on social media for all of your pressure washing, disinfecting, acid wash, and rust removal needs. It's high pressure washing, bringing your stuff back to glory. He offers many things, and you need to check him out. Eric K. Dowdle, defense attorney. We had him on the show, and what crazy stories this guy's had. He's helped a ton of people over the years. And if you're looking for help, he is your guy. You can contact them at 610-882-3000, and it's ekdefense.com. Do you have a pending court case? Do you have a court appearance and need a defense lawyer? Do you need proper representation? Felony, misdemeanor, drug offense, assault, homicide, DUI, traffic violation, appeals. Reach out to Eric. Check out the podcast we did with him as well. It has his whole story on there. If you need help, Eric is here to help you. He sponsors the show. We appreciate it. He's going to be doing a monthly thing with us. Eric will be a part of the family now. Thank you for sponsoring. And it's my mother asking, but I don't listen. Never Again Radio, episode 172, I think. Welcome to Never Again Radio. We wanted to do this 6 years ago. Quiet down back there, Bodnar, knocking things over. I'm glad we waited up until now because it's video and you've done so much, and we worked on a couple of projects with some things. But you have many layers to this, and I want to start out with first that you are a principal, and I'm not used to having a good conversation with a principal. It's usually me being like, oh, I didn't do anything. Yep. How did you get into teaching? Is that what you always wanted to do? It's not easy to get to the level that you're at. Where did that journey begin?
So growing up, I did a arts program at the local playground. Yes, I'm a Rough Rider, Catasauqua Playground. Whoop, whoop, Roughies.
Whoop, whoop. Roughies? Is that really what they're called?
Rough Riders, yeah.
The Roughies.
Yeah, Rough Riders.
I'm so glad you did that.
Yep. So worked with kids at the playground and was kind of on the fence as to what I wanted to do going to college for either art or for teaching, and went to school for both. So I had a double major in art and education, and after school, had a couple of different teaching jobs in the Lehigh Valley, but landed a permanent position in Allentown School District. Taught there for 7 years, and then went on to be an assistant principal at South Mountain Middle School.
How did you like teaching? I mean, 7 years is a long time. Most people, when they get into teaching, it's for, the extended career, but did you enjoy teaching?
I did. I absolutely did. Going through graduate credits, you're given the opportunity to work with your principal on like side projects and kind of the other side of education. So planning and organizing events, just helping the other teachers in the building with curriculum and instruction and, just taking them to the next level. And I really like that. Not that I didn't love the kids, but I kind of liked having more of an impact on more people. So not only are you impacting the students, but you're impacting the other educators in the building.
Well, the organizing and the stuff that you said, the side projects, is now making sense. What you did with the skateboarding and why you're good at doing the things you're doing in Frenchie racing. Now it's all starting to make, I'm learning stuff too.
Yeah, I kind of always had this philosophy. The more people you know, the better for whatever job you're in, whatever career you're in. And I'm always looking for opportunities to pull all of the people that I've met over the years into education and into just having an impact on the students' lives. We did a huge thing with Home Base and their skate program, bringing them in to teach our kids how to skate. We got donated skateboards at South Mountain.
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little bit because that's kind of the first time because I think I was early on in the clothing company at that time, but that was the first time where I saw you were doing cool stuff for a school and more like, and I remember teachers from when I was coming up, I was always in a bit of trouble here and there, but I always paid attention to the ones that put out the extra effort to do cool stuff like that. So like, how did you come up with the skateboarding program, or where did that idea come from?
Just working with the middle school kids and talking to them and seeing what kind of programs they offered after school. It was very basic, your everyday tutoring program, sports programs, but there really wasn't anything for those kids that either wanted to BMX or skateboard. So thankfully, reaching out to Poe and even amateur athlete Mr. Yo and getting donations so that we can get skateboards in the hands of kids. It was awesome to see the smiles on their faces. A lot of them had never even stepped on a skateboard before, so watching them kind of grow through the process and tying that to their academics, that they needed to be able to perform in the classroom so that they could perform outside of school on a board.
That's huge. To be able to do something like that, how does that make you feel to put a project like that together and then see the success of it and then see the kids actually putting effort in the curriculum in order to get into the skateboarding afterwards?
It's very rewarding, and even more so seeing that program still kind of come into play years later. Poe and Home Base, they still do a skateboard donation every couple of years to us around Christmas time. And if you ask my fifth graders 2 years ago, the most memorable moment for their probably fifth grade career would be me skateboarding into their class, hitting the carpet, coping, and landing on my backside and standing up for a ta-da.
Did anyone tape it?
No.
Oh, man.
I wish they did.
How long ago was that?
2-3 years ago.
Yeah. Because if TikTok was going the way it is now, you would have definitely went viral.
Absolutely. But it's very rewarding, especially when you see the kids out on the street skateboarding, and we're always reinforcing safety first, wearing their helmets. So just them coming back and saying, "Hey, I remember when you gave me a skateboard, and now look what I'm able to do."
Well, one of my favorite parts about following your career and the things that you do is I relate it back to when I was in high school and whatnot. And like, you're super personable with these kids, and like, you let them see a side of them that most people would hide. But I feel like that breaks a barrier of the kids communicating with you. Is that just something naturally that I know you, but like, is that just something naturally for you to be yourself all the time? Or like, was it difficult for you to kind of be like, no, I want to shake off like the normal principal vibes and just kind of connect with these kids more?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit of both. Every day I go to work and I just always say to myself, either I'm going to come to work and just get through it, but who wants to do that? There's no fun in that at all whatsoever. And when I have 700 kids that are there every day and 100 staff, I go in and make the most of it and see what fun opportunities there are. I mean, my kids, some of the kids over summer school built a hover machine out of a leaf blower and an inner tube, and I was the first one to ride it. I mean, just making those memorable experiences for the students is definitely what I try to capitalize on. Every year around Thanksgiving, we have a turkey jam basketball game, and just trying to make it fun and lighthearted. We film a very creative commercial where I make myself look like an NBA star, but not even close. So just
who comes up with these ideas? You?
Oh yeah. My guidance counselor always gets roped into filming them, and she loves when I text her at like 5 a.m. Hey, I have an idea for this year's video.
So when you were climbing up the ranks and started the programs and working with the side things, when did that turn into you having the opportunity to become where you're at now?
So after 2 years at South Mountain, an opportunity presented itself for me to be an acting principal. I'm at one of the elementary schools in the district, and I jumped on it just to try and see what it was like and see if that's really what I wanted to do, and I absolutely loved it. Again, just for all the reasons, like I said, not only are you impacting the lives of students, but you're also impacting the lives of the educators and the other people in the building and the community. I've been fortunate enough that the schools that I work at are community schools, so I'm always looking for opportunities to bring everyone from the community into the building to not only help me with resources, but help the kids and just connect them with all the different opportunities out in the community.
How long have you been actively principal there?
So this is going on my 7th year, which
That's
is
crazy. That's so crazy because I remember when this first just happened, but 7 years, that's nuts. That's nuts. What's it feel like to be 7 years in? I mean, because I see like posts and stuff that you do, and it's fun to see like how kids are and then remembering like being in high school and all that stuff. But like, what's it for you like to have transitioned from teaching and then now this, the setting up the programs and now kind of having control of being able to do way more for the school and community?
Yeah, it's definitely been a ride. It's a lot. Your first couple of years of being a principal, especially a building the size of my building, we're Center City, Allentown. So we definitely, have some unique experiences and opportunities there. So just trying to navigate that and figure out really how you want your building to look. And then a big part of that is really making that building and the people that work in it your team. So a lot of people will buy into your philosophy, and unfortunately sometimes people don't, but that only creates opportunities for you to bring people in that really believe in all of the things that you do. And my staff knows, it's always family first with me, first and foremost, and that goes for our parents, for our community, for my staff. And after that, just really trying to find ways to make the school day very engaging and fun for the kids, because ultimately you want them to leave and come back to you in middle school or high school and be like, wow, you really had an impact on me. And if we're not there to do that, then I don't really understand what the purpose of you being in education is if you're not there to impact their lives.
Do you think that, because I'm interested in where this comes from with the art and setting up the groups and, taking control and making a difference. Is that kind of a combination between you get to release your artistic side through doing these fun things with the kids, but then get to educate at the same time? Or where does this all come from with you even wanting to be this type of person? Because it's super unique and not most people do what you do. There's people that say that they're going to do this, but you actively act out and actually do all this stuff.
I think the art component of it definitely comes into play because I'm very mindful of the arts in our school, whether that's gym, music, library, art class, just trying to find resources for them to come in and connect with kids, because I know that's definitely an important outlet for a lot of our kids. Having that background in art and advertising design really helped me come into my position and know that I needed to rebrand the school, which is a very unique perspective, because if you don't have that background, you don't understand, you come into a building, you're a leader of a building, now it's time to completely rebrand it and make it your own.
Well, I want to stop you there for a second because I never even realized it, because I thoroughly enjoy branding, figuring out how to do that through the clothing company, and now being able to just get into projects and I just naturally brand things and make them their own. I never even thought of looking at taking a school and branding it, and then that's got to be an endless amount of artistic stuff that you could do there and make it look exactly the way you would want to look at it. And do you go over, this is so interesting, do you go over these projects with a team and be like, look, this is what I think we should do, this is how I think we should make ourselves look, this is the messages that we should get across? Do you guys break it down as a whole as what you want to do for the school, and does that change every year?
It's definitely a process. To start with, I came in there and it drove me nuts where the Eagles and our mascot looked like a broken down seagull. So the first thing was to find a very fun but elementary appropriate mascot to represent us, and one that kids are going to want to see and parents want to see on t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, just you name it, just getting that logo and image out there. And then kind of step 2 was showing all of the positives that we had in the building, because sometimes you can walk past the building, downtown Allentown, and you're not quite sure what they're all about and all of the things that they have to offer. offer. So just capitalizing on every positive moment and accomplishment that we had. So that kind of led into Twitter and just being very present on Twitter and making sure that we're getting all the stuff out there that our teachers and students are doing. Rebranding on the outside, just making it more, encompassing to the whole entire community. We work with City Center. They're our lead sponsor with Communities in Schools, and they're redoing our whole entire playground right now. So taking something that the former principals, had their hand in creating, say 15 or so years ago, the playground, that was like a staple of the community, just revamping it and redoing it to show that we're also a huge part of the revitalization downtown in Allentown.
That is so much work.
Yeah.
Like you breezed through it like it was like, it's just a couple meetings. But where do you even start with doing that? And how long does that take? And is that what the last 7 years have been? Like, how, will you ever get to a goal of, are you finished with that and then you guys just keep it running? Or like how, like, with a school like that or schools in general, like, do you ever really get to the finish line, or is it just constant work to just make it better every year?
Yeah, I don't think there really is ever a finish line. However, you do see a progression. They always say that it takes a solid 5 years to turn any organization around, from inception of how you want things to change to where you want to go. So I really did feel good I'm not even going to say the C word, but pre-C.
Carol.
Yeah, pre-Carol. I felt really good about just the people and the team that I had in place and all of the systems that we had going to see what academically our students were able to output, and all of the opportunities that they had, whether it's organizations coming in. I just felt like everything came together, and that was like supposed to be our year. So I'm very excited to go into the school year this year because I still have the bulk of the same staff and my core team. I call them the team of reading and math specialists around me. My assistant principal is phenomenal. Just those core members of the team are just so strong that I really am excited about this school year. So we are finally in a good place. Not that we're done by any means, but systematically I feel like we're in a good place for the building to run. But now it's just going to be, like you said, just tweaking it every year as you go along.
That's got to be, it's a mountain of work, and there's so many creative outlets of it, but, how much of a struggle is that to constantly keep it moving forward and keeping everybody on track? And then when you said you still have the same core team, I didn't even realize then if somebody was a huge asset and then they retire, then you have to replace that person with somebody new who has to come on board and learn everything. Like it sounds like it's just like constantly navigating a ship. Like you just need to constantly keep going with the weather. What's that like for you? Is that something that you enjoy? You enjoy a constant workflow? I mean, I know you're nonstop because then you do soccer and, you have way too much energy for one person, but I can relate to that. But like, what's that like dealing with that much of a load every day?
Yeah, you can definitely ask my husband. I'm on my phone nonstop from the minute I wake up until I go to bed, trying to do all the things I want to do. But it's interesting you use the boat analogy. My first, 1 or 2 years, I felt like I was the captain of a cruise ship, and I literally had like that oar on your wall to steer us and get us through the rapids. And now I finally feel that we're at a place. I don't even know what makes a cruise ship go, but we have most of the engine parts that we need to make it stay afloat. So it's definitely a nice progression.
Well, it's interesting to hear how this all works, because then you kind of see where a school cannot excel because they don't have the correct people in the right positions, or they don't have enough staff to do it. And it kind of, it takes a very specific person to lead. And, they're very fortunate to have somebody like you. Now, there's also a whole nother side of you, because I didn't want to hang out there. I feel like I got the professional part over with, and now we can relax. But like, there's a whole nother side to what you do in your life, and that you do with your husband. But like, how the hell did you get into motorcycles?
So, Keith has always ridden motorcycles. When I first met him, he had a motorcycle, and I never really had an interest in it.
Was it like a Fonz type moment? We're like, who's that cool guy in the jacket?
With his sports bike, yeah. Yep. I used to do crazy stuff on the back of it. I'd be riding on the back, and I would think I was like helping him turn, so I was like leaning into it. He's like, "You almost made us crash. Please stop doing that."
Yeah, I've had the same conversation with people. I'm like, I'm just not understanding anything, and I lean the opposite way, and they're like, "What are you doing? We're gonna crash. Just stop moving.
Just sit still and sit there." He had a supermoto bike that is that what it's called? What's that thing? Yeah, he's not talking. Supermoto that I learned to ride in good old Catasauqua, up the street, through the cemetery, and back down again. And
Were you scared?
I was, but he's like, it's okay. You can kind of run over things with this bike, so you're all right. Just don't hit other cars, but you can run stuff over. So that was good. I got a Harley. I think I put a whole 400 miles on it, and it just sat in my basement. So that was way too heavy for me. And then he always wanted to go to the track and ride, and we heard about the track. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And then people are like, start watching MotoGP. We watched that, and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to get my knee down and all this crazy stuff that they're doing on TV.
It's super intimidating to just see from the outside. Yeah. Even being there when I went, and I'll get into that, but it's intimidating. It's just loud, fast,
crazy. People are just going. Our friend Josh Marsh at the time was a salesman for a dealership. Keith had bought his bike there. He kind of mentioned about this track day up at New York Safety Track, and Keith's like, I want to go. And for 2 years, he says he wants to go. Like, he would go and get his leathers, and then they would sit in his closet. So finally I was like, all right, I paid for the weekend for him for his birthday. Well, it just so happened we went up there, and it was a Ducati demo day. So that means that you can actually try out the bikes on the track as long as you have your motorcycle license, which I did. You have a helmet. You go out and try their bikes. I was probably the slowest person on the track. Like, now I'm doing, up the front straight, 140 on a good day, a little bit more than that.
How fast was slow?
I think 20 miles an hour. I think I was going 20 miles an hour around the track. And it was the best time of my life. I was like, oh my God, this is like your own personal roller coaster. Like, you're on this track. You don't have to worry about cars. I don't have to worry about running shit over. Like, I'm just going out there on the track. I came home and I bought a Ducati 959.
I want to back up a little bit. Now, Keith got me into riding, and I texted him or called him afterwards and was like, dude, this is super therapeutic. I'm like, it is just such a way to get off your phone. And like, I never understood why people always made like the analogies to like get out on the road and go take your bike for a ride until I did it. And then it's such a huge help with like my mental stress and even depression and stuff. And I was like, because everything you talked about with teaching and all that, like, that's insane. And then was the draw to this also to just have something totally different, and it just kind of like escaped from the world of teaching and being a principal and something that you can do to kind of get away from what is the majority of your life?
That and just having something for us to do together. Plus, I'm a super competitive person, so anytime you're teaching me something new that I'm learning, like, I need to master it. So I need to understand why things are happening, how I can get better at it. I've always done sports growing up, so I just saw this as like a very adult sport with a huge adrenaline rush, but something that I wanted to know more about and wanted to really figure out how to do it better than what I was at 20 miles an hour.
So when you got the Ducati, is that kind of like when the bug started and you guys started really, because I remember the progression of it with just seeing pictures and stuff, and then it turned into like, okay, they're gone for the summer.
Yeah.
And then like you couldn't get a hold of you guys. But that's awesome that like that's your getaway is the entire summer going to the track. And then when I came down, I was like, why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah. Yeah, the Ducati definitely got it started. We put a couple of track days in, we go down to NJMP in Millville, New Jersey, and you really follow the coaches out there, especially as a novice person. And I listen. I like to think that I listen and remember things. And the coach said, whatever you do, just follow me. So at the time, of course, I'm in novice, and it goes novice, then intermediate, and then expert. So I followed him. I followed him into hot pit, kept following him and followed him right back onto the track into the middle of expert group.
Oh my God, of course you did.
So I'm out there. You have your orange penny on to let everyone
Did he
know
notice?
that you're brand
I guess
new.
he didn't notice that you kept following.
Oh, no,
So you were supposed to
gone.
stop when
Oh,
you got
yeah.
back in the pit.
Yeah, I was supposed to stop and go back to where all the rest of the novices were. But I went out and they had to have several coaches come and build like a barricade around me to get me off the track because everyone was just flying by so fast.
Yeah, and I didn't realize till I was down there that if you, I didn't know what track days was, and you guys have always talked about it. Angela came on, and like until you go down there and experience or be there, I didn't realize like how like there's, because one of the first things I asked was about the different levels on the track. So I didn't know that there was like different times. Like you weren't allowed to be on with the expert, but it makes sense because like that's when accidents happen is somebody who's not an expert is on the track. And then even when I went to the first class and then saw it, we're like, what was it, 4 hours of like the beginners going through, and then when they come back, then the intermediate or the expert goes out, and it was really interesting to see how much they fit into the entire day, utilizing everything to get everybody their turns to ride. And then there was times where like Keith and you guys could go out as the teachers or whatever, and then you had your time, and then I knew it was organized, but like it was really orchestrated well as to use the track up for the most amount of time in the day that you have there.
Yeah, we coach with Evolve now, Evolve GT.
I want to get back to you being on that track then. That story is not over.
And they really do. They have, the day that you came down to New Jersey, I was helping coach the GT1s, which are the people that are brand new to the track. So if anyone's looking to get into riding on the track, it's a great opportunity because you're in the classroom, you're learning, like seeing the visual of the track, just all the different skills that you need to be successful out there and a safe rider. So you're in the classroom and then you go out on track.
Yeah, and I sat in on the first classroom, and sometimes that stuff's intimidating for me. Like when, like just going to the jiu-jitsu classes and stuff, I'm always like, feel like I'm doing something wrong. But like, when I went there, it's super comfortable. It kind of starts out in like a jokingly manner, and with the one guy I was showing the video, and like they really make you feel at home and safe, and then you're allowed to ask as many questions as you want. So then people were asking questions, and it was definitely like after I sat in that class, I was like, okay, I would come back and like do this completely and go out there, which is crazy because it is scary to me, and I will be the guy doing 20. But like looking at it from afar, it's extremely overwhelming, loud and scary. But then when I got closer to it, I was like, all right, these are all professional people who are concerned with your safety, and like they're doing the best that they can to keep this thing going. Now when you went back out there into expert, when did you realize you were like, oh no, I should not have kept following him? Because there's got to be a moment where you're like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, definitely. You're going in, and in the novice group, there are people that are definitely faster than you, but when they go past you, it's, 20, 30 miles an hour faster than you. And people are going past me like 60 or 70 miles an hour faster than I was going. And then I realized it, and I was just like, all right, everyone always says be consistent with your line. I'm just going to be very consistent with my line, not do anything crazy. I'm just going to get through this one whole lap. Which
was your adrenaline running? Or?
Oh yeah, I thought I was going to die for sure. I was like, I can do it one lap, just one lap to get back in, and I'm probably definitely going to get screamed at, which I did, but I just need to make it one lap without crashing anyone out.
Who screamed at you first?
Definitely it was definitely one of the coaches, but that was an organization we don't ride with anymore.
All right.
Yeah. I should have known, because the beginning of the day, riding with that organization, they said, all right, everyone raise your hand that feels comfortable going 100 miles an hour, and everyone raised their hand except for me.
I wouldn't have been raising my hand. In my car, yeah, sure.
No. And the coaches are out there going like this, like more throttle. I'm like, no, I'm good where I am. It's cool. I'm good right here. Just right here.
So when you guys, when you found your home with Evolve, and when did you guys start getting into like you were traveling and doing this because you probably went to a couple, and then when did it turn into like this is your guys' life? As soon as summer hits, pretty much, right? Or when is it? Because he starts itching, and we'll start making comments. But like, what is it? end of winter, or like what's the earliest it starts going?
Yeah, now we're into it about 7 months out of the year. The first couple of years that we did it, we would just do we started doing just a couple of weekends each season, and then someone insisted we're going like every weekend, which was great until a couple of track days into it with the Ducati on his birthday. We were at the track, and I happened to be in a group with racers at the time, and got taken out on the front straight doing over 100 miles an hour. And
Was that your first time in a serious fall?
Yeah. And thankfully, when you have your suit and boots and gloves and leathers and, just all of that on, totally protected. But my bike was trashed. So there was definitely a rebuilding process. But the community is so tight knit that we literally posted like all of the things that we needed, and people were just throwing them at us just to get me back out there.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to touch on too, is when I started meeting Eddie and the other people down there, everybody was just super personable, and it's almost like you guys are like camping together. Yeah. And then like go ride motorcycles. But it's really cool. I mean, everybody is super, like even like every time you came off, somebody was there immediately to like put your wheel in the thing. And I'm just like, wow, like everybody like cares about each other and they take care of each other. It's a really rad community. I haven't seen anything. I saw that when I got into the jiu-jitsu community. That was another one that I was like, wow, like these are all such awesome people who are all into the same thing, and they all care about each other in that fashion. When you started going down there and like staying over, like when did you commit to like that style of like getting a camper and like making it completely your life? And I mean, you guys were going down south, like you were traveling a lot in the very beginning.
Absolutely. So there are mock races some weekends, and once I did a mock race up at New York Safety Track where it's all people that haven't raced before. They put you out there, they grid you up. Keith was my umbrella boy. It was phenomenal.
I want an umbrella boy.
Once I did that mock race, I had a serious conversation with him. And we talked about going back with Evolve because I do travel. And I just felt like we were riding at one track all the time. And I just felt like I was stagnant and I wasn't growing. And we wanted to get back out there and just experience all the other tracks. So we hooked back up with Evolve last season, and they travel
because Evolve
everywhere.
travels. Well, that's what I was going to get into. They travel. Do they have like a rotation that they do for the year?
There's a couple of tracks that they hit up frequently, like NC Bike. They go to frequently VIR, NJMP, which is in Jersey, but they go as far south as Florida, and they're always looking to expand. There's this phenomenal track up at Palmer in Massachusetts, which is like a serious roller coaster. You're going straight up the side of a mountain and back down again. It's
crazy.
Insane. But there's a lot of different tracks that they go to, and each track kind of has different skill sets that you need. Like some are very technical. I mean, you need to be very proficient on the bike. Some are just like fast, open tracks. So riding the different variety of tracks definitely helps you with your skills. But last year we were kind of definitely in it. Last year I got my race license, and there's this kid called Brandon Posh. He's not even a kid. He's a grown-ass man now, but watching him come up with Evolve as a kid, I always call these young ones kids. There's Kevin Rodeo, there's Gus, there's just super fast kids. So Brandon Posh was the British Superbike World Champion 2 years ago, and right? Yeah, British Superbike World Champion, say that again. And he gridded up against me while I got my race license. So that's phenomenal to be out on the track with someone at that level that goes flying past you so fast. It's like you're standing still, even though you're going really fast. So after I got my license, I did a couple of the CCS races, and this year I'm both in the CCS race series and also with the Moto Gladiator. So once I started racing and us coaching last year, Keith coached with Evolve. Then they asked me over the winter if I'd be interested. So I'm going through that process right now of learning how to be a coach with Evolve. We're pretty much committed to every weekend.
Now you skipped over the part where you started competing and racing. What's it like to get out there and be racing? Because you went from like riding his bike over raccoons and garbage in Catasauqua, and then you got a Harley. Then you got into this thing. You got the Ducati. You sort of, but I mean, through the interview, you're just seeing the progression of this is what you did with your career. You're just somebody who constantly progresses and goes after things. So what's that like for you to then start racing and competing? And then now, I mean, that's a whole nother thing because now you've taken it's. I've known this stuff about you, but it never made sense till I put it all together. This is so interesting. So now you take all these things and then you kind of get everything together and you're organized, and then now you move forward with the competition of it. So like now you're competing like you do with soccer, and you said you're a very competitive person. So what's that like to take something that you guys do together and you love this so much and it's something that you do, and then now you put competition into it? What's that like to be racing against people? That's got to be crazy.
Yeah, I want to throw up every time. Every time they call my race number, I want to throw up. It's very intimidating. Just because, one, I'm still very new to it, so I know there's a lot that I need to learn yet. I'm constantly getting better, but I had, a conversation with Keith about me being so competitive. This is going to make me a better rider because I'm pushing myself. And during a track day, not that you don't push, but going back to the whole safety thing, like you're very mindful of everyone around you. You don't really want to do anything too crazy or take, ridiculous chances at a track day because that's not where, you want to risk your safety and well-being, but also the people around you. Track days are also usually a lot more packed than, a race day for your group that you're racing with. But CCS, there are probably about a dozen women, and that's it out of the 200.
Well, that's what I was going to follow up with is what's it like, because how many, you said there's about a dozen women, and that's just you guys kind of competing against each other constantly?
We do compete against each other, but you can also compete. So there's a Moto Girl series in CCS, which is just all women who race together, girls and women. And then there's also just all of the other regular classes where it's men and women together. But there's no age cap on it. So you have the super fast kids, like some of the ones I mentioned earlier, Gus Rodeo, the Moors, just all of these youngins coming up that you're racing against, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And I'm like, great. This year I'm turning 25 for the 20th time. So, I'm just going to see if I can keep up with them for the first, which I can't. But it's very intimidating. So all of the people in that class, and it usually goes by what type of bike you have. And if you're expert or amateur, you race together, and there's different, it's interesting because when you go to watch CCS or even Moto Gladiator, there's people racing in classes that you don't necessarily know which class they're racing in. So there's multiple races going on at the same time, even though it's either only one or two heats of racers going at a time. So I can be competing, in the Moto Girls series, but also, in another class during one race. So you really gotta, who you're racing against, and it usually is the same handful of people. There are people that come from down south and up north. There's the Hot Mess Racing team. There's a couple of girls on that team that, they're just badass all the time out on the track. So there's definitely the same girls doing it, but it's good to see the up and coming girls that are getting into racing. Again, the very youngins, the 16, 17-year-olds. There's this girl, Elise from New York, who's just killing it out there. And it's pretty awesome to see more girls getting into it. But yeah, it's definitely the same group right now, but there's some up and coming ones that you really need to keep your eye on.
When you get into the racing stuff, because I came down for a track day, there wasn't any racing going on for that. Is the racing something totally separate that you have to obviously sign up for, and then when you go to the track, that is just a race weekend? This is not what I experienced coming down to see you guys?
So there's two different ones. There's CCS and ASRA. They have their own race weekends, which is super competitive. You'll see people from Moto America jumping into that series. So Moto America, is at our national level. And then once in a while, you'll get someone that gets pulled up from Moto America into hopefully British Superbike, or, the ultimate goal is MotoGP to end up there. But CCS is definitely very competitive. People are very fast in it. And then there's a Moto Gladiator series, which is nice because it's part of a track day. So that's with Evolve. So there's 2 races on Saturday, 2 races on Sunday. I'm usually in the Sunday races because that's just when my bike class race happens to be. But that's kind of interesting because you can do the track part of it. So you have your sessions to do the track sessions, and then they break for 2 different races in the afternoon. So that's kind of a one size fits all. You get your track day and you get to race type of deal. But yeah, you do have to pre-register for them all. There's different transponders that you have to use depending on what series you're racing in. So last year getting into racing, it was a huge learning curve for me because I didn't know which transponder went where and where to put it. And I was driving Keith crazy because I'm like, I need this transponder on my bike today, but tomorrow I need a different one and I need rain tires on. So can you go buy me new tires and rims so I'm ready for the weekend? It's a lot.
Yeah, like that's that's totally insane that what you do for a living and then this is what you do. Like it's just controlled chaos. I get it, believe me. What was it like to go from racing and then to coaching? Because I'm sure that is polar opposites of what you need to do, and now you have to pay attention to what another person's doing, and it's not really competitive. Now you're on the side of making sure somebody doesn't get hurt or making sure to tell somebody to stop following you when they get but like what's that like to transition into coaching now?
Yeah, so it's completely different, but again, it's just another one of those challenges that I wanted to figure out, what coaching is all about. I love helping people. I mean, going back to the whole soccer thing, I coached the Olympic development team for Pennsylvania. I coached at Lehigh University. Like, coaching is just kind of one of those other hidden skill sets that I don't really talk about. But
I didn't know you did any of that stuff.
Yeah, so just having that coach mentality and always wanting to help people. I love helping all of the other women that are at the track because, again, even a track day is intimidating. You might have 200 riders, and out of those 200 riders, there's again, a dozen girls that are out on the track. So, and not that it's intimidating to go out there, just for me personally, I always felt intimidated because being so new to the sport, I knew that everyone else was going to be so much faster than I was. And then kind of working through the track days and, first time I got bumped up to intermediate, I was so excited. I was like the first one out there all the time and, would be psyched that I got like a whole 4 laps in, which is not a lot of laps at all. So that shows you how slow I was going. And now when I go out, we're doing 7, 8, 9 laps. So just seeing the progression of just constantly learning new things and taking that now and circling back and sharing it with other people because I feel like for girls, it's hard sometimes to go up and ask people questions because you think that they're stupid questions because I just drive my husband crazy with all the questions I ask of why things are the way that they are or how things work or what should I be doing with my body? Well, what about my head and my vision? Well, what about this arm? What about that foot? What about my toe? My toe's hitting the ground, which is not a good thing. But just learning all those things, and if you're doing it the wrong way, just feeling comfortable to go and ask someone. It's nice to have a couple female coaches there because girls naturally gravitate to one another, and we feel very confident, just talking about all of the stuff that we had to learn along the way.
I saw what was cool when I came down and was hanging out is I saw people coming up to you guys then because you were out on the track with them. And then there were people who were learning and they were asking like, hey, was I doing this right? Or why did that happen? And then for you guys to be coaching on and off, it's pretty cool how all that works where the people are there and they want to learn. And then I'm sure you get shy people. What's it like when you see somebody who you can tell if it's a female or a male and they're a little uncomfortable? How do you kind of go about getting them to kind of just feel a little bit more comfortable in what they're doing?
Definitely sometimes people seek you out to ask you things. There's only so many things that you can learn while you're out on the track. A lot of the technical aspects of riding are things that you can almost pick up in the paddock. There's a coach with Evolve Alberto who really helped me change my body position on the bike and just understanding how to just shift my foot a little bit, which completely changed my riding and being able to just, flow into turns a lot easier. So stuff like that you can learn off the track, but in the paddock. You can kind of tell when people have questions or just really aren't feeling a session, just making sure that we go and find those people, find them in their own pit and go and talk to them, ask them, what's going good for them so far. And once in a while you get someone that's like nothing at all whatsoever, and just trying to give them something to work on the next time that they go out. It's definitely overwhelming people that are new to the sport, because there's literally 1 million things that you're trying to learn at the same time, and helping them break that down and just focus on like one or two things, so that they're not so overwhelmed, because you got to worry about your feet, you got to worry about your body position, your vision, your hand, your hand, like changing your grip from this to this. It's crazy all the little small things that you need to learn how to do to be successful out on the track.
I also didn't realize that you have to be leveled up and passed to get to the next section. So like, what do you start out as, novice?
Novice when you go 20 miles an
and
hour.
then like, yeah. So like, what's the decision on who allows to go up? Is that like a group thing, or is it like you have to have so many hours on the track? Like, how do you get to where you're at the level that you guys are at?
So you start novice. Some people are just, they think that they should be an expert right away. And granted, once in a while you have like a miracle person who should be.
Few and far between, but
Yeah.
you probably get a lot of people that think that they're just, I rode my whole life. I know what I'm doing.
I rode on the street. I know what I'm doing. T-shirt, flip-flops. Yeah, you go, buddy.
That's how I ride.
You start in novice. Coaches, either you go and find a coach that if you want to bump up to the next group, or an eval, they call it. Next group is intermediate. Same thing. You feel like you're ready for expert. Expert though, Evolve has started to put out some times after E3, which is advanced. They have something called E4, which is kind of a neat concept to give everyone like times to try and achieve at different tracks. But you always need coaches to bump you up into the system or give you an eval. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't get that bump or eval, but they'll definitely give you feedback on things to work on, so that hopefully you get to the group that you want to be in. Everyone always wants to be an expert, but ideally, if you think about it, if everyone ends up an expert, you can't have 200 people out on the track.
No.
Group.
But I liked how it was structured, that, because I didn't know that was going on, and then people were just discussing it while I was there, and I was like, oh, well, that makes sense on keeping people, on and off the track that are supposed to be together. And if you prematurely move somebody up, you're really risking the safety of others. And it was impressive how much goes into all that. And then listening to everything that you've done with it and racing and all that. Now you have all this stuff going on, and then you started Frenchie Racing. You just thought you needed something else to do.
Yep, something else. So last year, just starting to get into racing, and I only did 2 weekends with CCS, and kind of took notice that everyone had their own like racing team. And
you were probably so pumped to be like, I can create this and brand it and do all this stuff.
I'm going to have my own racing team. And he's like, what are you going to call it? And of course, they probably had 5 million ridiculous things like Rough Riders Unlimited. No, I'm just kidding. Something ridiculous. And then I was like, well, duh, the Frenchies. I mean, we have our Frenchie Instagram, Butter's the French Bulldog. And then we got Ma Petite, who's just ridiculous with her tongue out all the time.
Yeah.
And fortunately for Keith, being in the tattoo industry, he knows a million and two artists. So Robert Kane did the artwork for me, and then Frenchie Racing was born. So now I have my own race team.
But I think it's so cool because I'm similar, where like you take something, and if you know how to like brand it, and that's so much fun to like even the colors you chose, and then like you're doing t-shirts and sweatshirts and all this stuff is so now that you created your race team, like what do you plan on doing with it?
Conquering the world.
Are you going to bring other riders onto the team, or like what's kind of your vision of doing it? Because you don't just do something, you take something and you make it have a purpose, and like you use it. You're not somebody who just creates things and then it's like, oh, I'm going to create something else. Like most of the stuff that you've talked about so far is you've done something with it. So like, what are your plans on the race team, and what are your goals with this that you're going to drive your husband insane while doing?
Absolutely. He's probably insane already from it. Right now it's kind of still in the initial phases. It's really only in year one of Frenchie Racing, but just trying to, you're always looking for people to support you. So thank goodness with the race community, there's a lot of people that will help you out with either finances or, work that needs to be done to your bike. Somehow or another, I ended up knowing Mike Felice from Metric Devil since like 1999, and we've crossed paths multiple times over the years, but he has like one of the premier suspension and race bike building shops on the East Coast. So that was kind of cool to come across our paths again, and have the support from them. And then Eric Wood and Woodcraft, who really helped me out this year, because buying a new bike, you say you're going to buy a new bike and you're like, that's it, I'm not going to do anything to it. And then you find out that you need to have race plastics, of course, because you can't use your street plastics. And then I ride it, and my husband's thing with this new bike is I need to learn how to do everything on it myself. So I'm learning how to motorcycle, not ride it, but like build it and work on it and do things. And I end up rating everything by how many nails I break, what kind of job it is. So when I changed my full exhaust out on the motorcycle, that was a 5 broken nail job, pretty intense. Lots of tools I've never used before.
Yeah.
But again, being in the first year of it, definitely still looking for sponsors and people helping out to cover some stuff, because it is an expensive sport. But I mean, ideally, absolutely, if money was not an issue, just being able to support and give back to some other female riders in the community, because I know, again, going back to the whole thing, just trying to network and build a community of female riders alone is definitely a feat in itself. Of course, I want to support everyone, but just very passionate about helping support those younger female riders that are coming up.
Yeah, and you got to make sure that what you're doing works, and that, because if you start learning how to pull sponsors to help you out, like you could then find bigger sponsors then that you'd be able to have a team or at least one girl under you, but to bring a bunch of people in and then you don't have it figured out as to how you're going to cover expenses, you're not going to be able to do anything like that. What's it been like having a race team so far? Because you just got the white bike, correct? Because you got rid of the
got rid of the Gixxer.
Yeah, and then so now is this your new bike for the year now?
It
for
is.
This year?
This year and a couple years after, I felt it was finally time to treat myself to a new bike. So got a 2021 ZX 636R.
What did you have before this? I know nothing about any of these numbers you're throwing out here. Now, was it a smaller bike and now you're getting into a bigger one?
It's pretty similar. It was another 600. It was a Gixxer, which Keith always makes fun of Gixxer life. But yeah, street squid for life. No. No, it was a Gixxer. It was a great bike. I definitely struggled with the Ducati, going back to the Ducati. It was just a gnarly bike that wanted to go really fast, but it was heavy for me, so I found it difficult to turn in. And I would get off the track and just would be sweating profusely from trying to wrangle the Ducati on the track. So went to the Gixxer and immediately dropped time on that because it was just so easy to turn in and ride. And then got on my brand new bike and race, stock suspension, stock bike, literally picked it up from the showroom and went out and raced it and dropped 2 seconds at NC Bike. So I think this is the bike for me. There's things that I know I need to do to it yet to make it a little bit better and track friendly. But this is definitely going to be the one I stick with for a while.
I want to start wrapping up, but what direction do you even grab onto at this point with all these different things going on? How do you maintain where you're going? I mean, I know you kind of get a break because summer with school, but you're probably still working the entire time because you're in charge. And then to be doing the coaching and the traveling and all that, and now throwing racing in there, how do you even navigate where to begin? Or is this just something you're like, cool, I'm doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, and you keep up? Or how do you stay on top of doing any of this?
Go ahead. I'm glad you said that in front of my husband. I'm never going to hear the end of it now. I told you do too much.
That's every time I'm over, that's usually out of his mouth.
I think, next year going forward with coaching, if I am coaching full time next year, probably just doing the Moto Gladiator series. That way it's embedded in what we're already doing. I absolutely love the CCS series, but that's its own separate thing and it's expensive. And it's weekends that takes us away from Evolve. Once in a while it lines up that they're on 2 different weekends. But yeah, keep Frenchie Racing going just because it's fun to say you have your own race team and why not? Frenchie Racing's on Instagram and Facebook. But pick up a shirt, DM me, slide in the DMs. I'll get you a shirt or sunglasses.
That's right, you did sunglasses. I wish they'd fit my pumpkin head.
Keeping that going. And still continue to grow on the track. I still know I have a lot of room for improvement. I am the type of person, and this is the one thing that holds me back. I need to be in control at all times. So I drive my husband and people that know me crazy because I literally will not go any faster on the track that I'm to the point where I'm out of control. And that's how you get faster, by not losing, but letting go of control just a little bit at a time. Pick one corner and go a little bit faster into it the next time you're out there, and each time increase your pace. But right now I'm still at that spot where I feel like I need to be in control at all times. Even though I'm pushing, there's no point on that track that I'm not in control.
Well, let me ask you this now that you're finding out that you need to let go of control to push yourself further. Are you applying that in other avenues of life, or is this just kind of something that's sticking on the track? Are you taking that attitude now and putting it over into the school and seeing what happens there when you're learning this thing? Because now that I'm wrapping this up and understanding is you're learning these different assets, but you're applying them to different things, but each thing's growing. And as each thing grows, it's another thing that you can learn and apply it back to the other thing. So you're really just kind of going back and forth, but growing the entire time. So do you apply that back to school and the other aspects of life?
Yes. So it's funny that you say that. I was definitely a control freak the first, 3-4 years of being a principal. And that was the hardest thing. Having the confidence in your team, knowing that they can do it just as good as you, if not better. So last year was the first year that I really started to take a step back and let other leaders emerge in the building. My assistant principal, developing him, my core team. So definitely, you are right. I do see some similarities between things that I'm doing either, as a principal related to the track, or vice versa, just trying to always constantly improve and grow.
This was so much fun for me. I know you as a person over the years. You guys have always been awesome to me. I love you guys to death. But to be able to sit here, I don't get the opportunity to have conversations like this with really anyone. But then what I'm learning is my favorite part about doing these podcasts is we would have never sat for an hour and a half and there's life interrupts things like that. So to be able to sit here and actually, which is the whole point of the show, is to showcase who you are. It's pretty remarkable what you do, how many lives you affect in each asset of it, because most people would just do, hey, I'm really good at school. They take time off, but you do your best to affect everybody positively in school. And then you come over and do it in your hobby. And then you come over here and do it everywhere. And I know how you are with Keith as well. You're an extremely remarkable person. And I know we're not supposed to swear, but you are the definition of a badass. And you're one of the coolest women that I know. And I think it's awesome that you promote other women doing this stuff and you carry others around you. I'm going to give you a minute to plug how anybody can get a hold of you if they want to sponsor you, how they can help out with anything that you're doing with the school projects, and where to find anything that you do.
Awesome. So, definitely heavy Twitter presence for Central Elementary School. I'm also on there as Bodnar principal. I was learning how to do Twitter, so it ended up being backwards instead of Principal Bodnar.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. On there, Central Elementary is also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But you can find us just Googling the school or Googling me if you want to help out with the school, bring things, whatever you want to bring to the school, just connect with me. That way, for Frenchie Racing at gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. There's a little lull right now with the posts, but we will be back at the track end of September, NJMP, Millville, New Jersey, September 24th, 25th, 26th. It is a Moto Gladiator racing series weekend, so I will be racing that Sunday.
How far away is that?
About 2 hours.
That's not bad.
Nope, 2 hours, 15 minutes. It's also my birthday weekend, so everyone better come out and bring unicorn stuff and just put it around everyone's
I'm going to try
paddock.
and make it out that weekend.
Yeah.
Because I'm driving 2 hours to get hot dogs on Monday, so I really don't have an excuse not to come out there unless I have a pop-up.
But definitely looking for sponsors, support for Frenchie Racing. And like I said, ideally, I would love to be able to support and give back to the younger female racers that are up and coming. FrenchieRacing.com, Instagram, Facebook. No, I lie. It's not FrenchieRacing.com, FrenchieRacing@gmail.com. I tried to have a website, but I don't know how to do it. So I literally have the name and like a stock image there. So if you go there.
As long as you have the name, that's good, because then down the road you can just turn it into like a Shopify thing or build out a website on it.
Yeah, people are like, you can definitely post something. And I tried really hard to get something up there.
That stuff's totally insane. I don't understand any of it either.
So I have the name. That's it. So don't visit that. Go on Instagram or Facebook. Don't go there.
Instagram is my favorite way to follow you. You guys post good stuff, and then the dogs and stuff are like a huge part of your life, but it fits so well to what you're doing and the Frenchie Racing as well. Like I said, this has been fun. I'll let you guys get out of here. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, it is neveragainstudio.com. Now I'm screwing up. I screwed up last night. I've been doing so good on closing out, and I knew it was going to come full circle to where I start screwing up again. It's neveragainstudio.com. Has all of the podcasts. It has the apparel. It has any way for you to sponsor the show. Anything that you see that I'm doing, we also offer as a service. So if you need help with branding, if you need help with anything with your business, please contact me. I work direct sales for Axelrad screen printing, so I can help you with apparel. That is neveragainstudio.com. Thank you guys so much for coming down here. It was a pleasure to get to see you this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I believe it.